All right, everybody.
Oh.
It is a little after 5:30, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna ask, can I have a volunteer to be in charge of the microphone today, of passing around the microphone?
I'll do it.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind just coming to the middle to give the microphone to folks. Unless Daisy, did you want to manage the microphone for today? All right. All right. Would you please give that to the gentleman? Oh, we got this one for this side and this one for this side. Would you please give that one to the gentleman in orange over there so he can call our meeting to order?
The gentleman in orange.
Gentleman in orange.
Gentleman in orange.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, I'm in the way.
Oh, no, you're not in the way of the wire.
All right. You can go ahead and call the meeting to order, Gary.
It's working now?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the meeting, and let's call this meeting to order and let's get things started.
All right. Excellent. Meeting's begun at 5:34.
Sorry, I have to read off the time.
No, you're okay. All right. I'm going to steal this one so that I'm not yelling. Okay. Suppose I could have asked for that. Really got to get better at asking for stuff. Okay. So now that we are started, I know that there are a few new faces in here. I don't want to take up too much time with introductions. We do have a pretty full agenda, but there are a few people that I want to make sure are introduced. For starters, y'all know me. My name is Victoria Kelly. Over here, we have my boss, our CEO, is Daisy Correa. And then over here, we have a new member of our team, our Director of Performance and Quality Improvement, Sherry. I'm gonna stop saying her last name correctly. I'm sorry.
The last name doesn't hold blocker.
There we go.
Hold it blocker.
I had to hear her say it at least once. All right.
She needs the rolling chair.
I really do. Anyways, all right. So thank you very much. Please welcome our team. And then to save time, if it's okay, I'm gonna ask everybody to go around and only say your first name, okay? That is all we are doing, just our first name, because there are a lot of new people in the room, okay? So you wanna get us started down here?
There you go.
Thank you.
Bill.
Jim. Norm.
Angela. Amelia.
Gary. Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Daniel.
Jennifer.
Here's this one for the other side. Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
Jennifer.
Matthew.
Charmaine.
Jack.
Mary. Sherry again. Oh, what was that? Oh, God. Oh, gosh.
Okay, I got these.
Okay.
Kat, we got Kat over here. Kat is our secretary, and we have Mike over here. Mike is our co-chair along with Gary. Oh, you want to come introduce yourself? And last but not least,
Hello, Ron.
there we go. All right. Wonderful. Thank you all for that. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive on in. First of all, I wanted to go through a little bit of meeting information, okay? I know that our schedule has been a little bit crazy in this committee lately. And so I wanted to address our schedule. We do meet on the second Thursday. We do meet on the second Thursday of the month. Thank you, Jennifer. We do meet on the second Thursday of every month, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. here in the library. Usually we're in a room towards the front. Today, because we're on a little bit of a different schedule, we're here. The library is wonderful and pretty flexible with us. But we do meet on the second Thursday of every month. A little bit about our committee. For the new folks, however, before I get started, I'm gonna ask everybody to be quiet, please, and only one person speak at a time. If you do need to have an outside conversation, please do that over in the far corner or outside of this room so that everybody can hear. With that in mind, a little bit of information about the Lived Experience Committee and the Pinellas Continuum of Care. Guys, please, thank you. So the Pinellas Continuum of Care, and just so we all know, I'm a stickler for one person talking at a time because not only is it hard to hear in the recording, but it is hard to hear for some of the folks here in this room. So out of respect for everybody's hearing abilities and all that, I really want to make sure everybody's capable of hearing us. So that being said, the Pinellas Continuum of Care, a little bit of overview for the new folks. The Pinellas Continuum of Care, or the CoC as we call it, that is the group of service providers, funders, folks with lived expertise, faith-based organizations, businesses, individuals, all working together to try and end homelessness here in Pinellas County. That is our goal. It is a big one, but we are working on it. I like that, Jennifer. The Pinellas Continuum of Care involves members. If there's anybody who isn't a member here and would like to become a member, come talk to me after the meeting. Of course, we also have a board of directors. We have two members in this room who are part of that board of directors. Gary and Mike are co-chairs, hold the lived experience seats on the board of directors because it's really important that there are folks with recent lived experience in the room because the board of directors makes a lot of policy decisions that impact homeless services and priority populations and funding populations and things like this, policies that impact our everyday lives. So that's what the board of directors does. We also have a bunch of councils and committees, the Funders Council, the Providers Council, the Advocacy Committee, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, the Data and System Performance Committee, the Point in Time Planning Committee, and this committee right here. This is the Lived Experience Advisory Committee, and we meet every month to ensure that folks with lived experience have a voice in the CoC. Now, of course, you are welcome to join all of the CoC's other committees. You gotta be a funder to join the funders, and you gotta be a provider to join the providers. But outside of that, members are welcome to join all of our committees. So we really want to live up to that, nothing about you without you. We want your voice in all of the CoC. This committee right here is really, really focused on ensuring that there is a strong voice with a lot of representation for folks with lived experience. Because homelessness is something that I can talk about all day. I can talk about homelessness, homeless statistics, homeless services until I am blue in the face. But it is not my story, and I am not an expert. Please don't tell my husband any of these things. I always want him to think I'm an expert in everything and I'm perfect. So never tell him if I say anything like that. But it's really important that the experts are in the room. And Daisy, you're wonderful, but you're not an expert in this either. See, she's my boss. So thank you for volunteering your time and having a say in what goes on in Pinellas County. Your participation is really, really key. We have done things like collaborative meetings with street outreach providers so that folks with lived experience can have a say in those street outreach written standards. We are, Mike and Gary are participating in the CoC task force meetings right now while we are working to address the anti-camping legislation. It's really, really wonderful that we have this committee, that we have this group, and we have your voices, so thank you very much. That's why we're here and what we do. We've been meeting for about a year. And our meetings are an hour and a half. We come in here, we have our agenda, as you can see. Everybody should have a copy. If not, Kat has a few extras. And we have really been working on advocacy as of late, advocating to destigmatize homelessness. That was really one of the main goals as identified in our early meetings, and it is written into our committee charter. Really trying to destigmatize homelessness and encourage support for homeless services and affordable housing, and just generally trying to make people care more about their neighbors in need. And so that's really what our goals have been and our focus has been as of late. So Daisy is actually I'm going to hand it over to her just a little bit to talk about the anti-camping laws and the COC task force and all of that. But just a couple of more points of procedure for the committee. Sorry, could you step outside?
Jane, you asked that outside on the home.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry. A couple points of procedure just while we're here. It is really important that if you want to be a voting member of this committee, that you become a COC member. We did vote during our last meeting to limit the number of committee members, voting committee members to, I don't remember if it was 15 or 20 off the top of my head, I think it was 20. So it's really important, if you want to be a voting member of this committee, that you become a member of the COC. And then if you don't want to vote, you can still be a member of the COC, and you are still welcome to join us here in these committees, but it is really important that you join, okay?
Right.
If you are a member of this committee, if you are a member of the COC, that is the group that you are a member of, okay? I just want that to be really clear. Folks sometimes are a little bit confused. Gary. Folks are sometimes a little bit confused, and I don't blame you because it took me a while and I worked for the organization to figure this out. But we are not Homeless Leadership Alliance members. I work for the Homeless Leadership Alliance. Sherry and Daisy work for the Homeless Leadership Alliance, but we are COC members, okay? And this is a COC committee, okay? And as a member of this committee, as a member of the COC, I would love it if y'all could go out there and spread the word about what we are doing, okay? That means encouraging people to come to our membership meetings. The next one's August 13th. Encouraging people to come to these meetings right here. Encouraging folks to visit the resource guide online to complete the HLA's request help form. These are the things that y'all can do. Encourage folks to come to these meetings and have their voice heard, and tell them where they can find help. Okay, our website has those homeless resource guides on them and the request help form. They are also on the back of the lived experience cards. I brought extras of those today. There's a link and a QR code for it. Give those to people. Make sure that folks know how to find those resources and get help if they need it, and join us if they want to, because we want to have folks here with us. It's really important that we have more folks joining us and more folks spreading the word. Please do not promise anybody services, okay? Please do not promise anybody services. Please do not promise anybody that they are going to get paid for anything or that they are going to get access to any services. I don't think that that's happened a lot, but I have heard that it might happen at some point, so I just want to bring it up and make sure that everybody knows we are encouraging people to come to meetings. We are encouraging people to have their voices heard. We are encouraging people to join the COC. We are showing people how to find resources. We just aren't promising that, folks. That they're going to get into housing or, that they're going to get paid for stuff or anything like that. Does anybody, before we move on to, I don't know about the legislative updates being fun stuff, but before we move into the meat of our meeting, does anybody have any questions about who we are, what we do, or why we're here? All right. With all that in mind, I'm going to be quiet now for just a little bit. Oh, I was going to let you take the seat. Okay.
All right, well, thank you for that, Victoria. She's always so energetic. I need a little bit about that energy. So I wanted to just quickly talk about the anti-camping legislation and some updates with our COC task force. So I'm not sure if you already heard about the decision that was made at Grants Pass versus Johnson. It was not the best news that we've received. If you haven't, I'm just going to read a little bit, a little clause of what it decision was based on, if you are not aware. So the Supreme Court issued their opinion on Grants Pass versus Johnson, which makes it easier for communities nationwide to fine, ticket, or arrest people living unsheltered, even when there is no adequate shelter available, which is not what we were looking, for the outcome to be. The Supreme Court determined that the cruel and unusual punishment clause of the 8th Amendment does not prohibit the city of Grants Pass from enforcing criminal punishments against people who are homeless or camping outside the city. So, with that, it makes it even harder for us to fight, advocate, but not impossible. That just means that we have to look at innovative ideas, look at other ways to continue to advocate, to be able to work with our COC members, to work with our providers and funders to be able to help improve the system that we have control over so that we can get our unhoused neighbors into proper housing. Because that is the idea, it's housing. Shelter is just a temporary solution to get you off the street and safe, but the ultimate goal is housing. And that's what we're doing with the task force, is just really enforcing and also highlighting that housing is a solution to everything. Right now, we are really looking at working with outreach to make sure that everybody is educated to know what their options are currently. We're trying to make sure that our partnership with the Sheriff's Department is a positive one, so that we're working together and not look at punishing, fining, or ticketing any of our shelter neighbors. So that's the idea of that task force. Really making sure that we're not just educating our community, but we're educating our providers and our system to make changes so that we are not faced with having to do these cruel and unusual punishments that the court said is not really the case. So the next task force that we have, I believe, is
August
August.
5th? No, August 7th.
Yes, August 7th. Sorry, we changed it a couple times. So in that meeting, our ultimate goal is to really look at taking action, making sure that we have our flyer that we reviewed the last time. We changed a couple of things. I did take a lot of your comments into consideration, so we made it really simple, very clear. We're gonna print those out once the board votes on it, make sure that we get those out to the outreach team and also to anybody in the Sheriff's Outreach Department as well, if they're willing to take the flyers. I know they have some flyers, but we have other ones too, to educate our neighbors, make sure that they have those flyers, and not just give out information, but also have a plan of action. If we get our system, our coordinated entry system together to work with our outreach team, you will have a better, or our unhoused neighbors will have a better option of not just handing you a piece of paper, but actually knowing where to go, what your options are, what are the next steps, how can you get into housing if there's any housing available, how do you get into programs that will help you get into housing. So that is the ultimate goal of that task force. It's not just to get you into a shelter. That is just temporary. So we're working with other providers as well, with our housing authorities to see. I know it takes a long time to develop housing. However, that is the goal. Starting to develop more housing units, making sure that we have that in the future. One of the things that I'm working on, the notice of funding availability is gonna happen very soon. That is HUD's way of, for us, for the COC to apply for funding for this year, and then we'll get funding for the next 2 years because it's going to be a 2-year application. And what I'm doing with that is looking at reallocating money for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive dollars, making sure that that is on the table so that we have providers have better options to help clients who are on filing lists to get them into programs, to get them into housing. So those are one of the things that HOA and the COC is working towards, especially this NOFA, which is the Notice of Funding and provide applications, so that we can focus on that and reallocate some of that money to get more housing programs on the table. There's also, I did remember the last meeting, there was a mention of having some education, and I think it's on the agenda a little bit later, but I did bring that back to our vice chair of the HOA board. He is an attorney, so we're trying to figure out how we can either do like a mini town hall for education on what the law means, how does it affect everybody? Because I'm not a legal expert, I can only tell you what, some of the summaries of the Supreme Court ruled, but that, hopefully that event, if we can get it together, will provide you a little bit more detail on how does it affect you, how does it affect the community we live in, and how we can move forward. So that is something that we're also working on. Any questions?
No questions about the anti-camping law?
I know it's a lot. We did go, well, we were supposed to go with Victoria, her meeting. But during the DC conference, the National Alliance and Homelessness, there was a lot of mention on what other states are doing, what other providers are doing. And a lot of them are really focusing on housing, rehabilitating old motels to kind of make that into more permanent housing solutions. There was a conversation about not doing encampments because they feel that that's probably not the best solution for some communities. But they're really focusing on looking at other options for housing, to development, to partner up with development partners to be able to create new housing. And just other resources, different type of ideas. I know that there was a provider who reached out to me from Vero Beach. It's, they do something called the Dignity Bus. It's pretty much a shelter on wheels. It provides 20 beds. It has showers, bathroom, it has a washer and dryer, has a storage unit under the bus. It's like almost like a two-tier type of bus. That is something that, you know, I want to bring to the COC to see if anybody within the providers would want to do something like that. They provide case management. It's a safer option for clients to go into something like that versus going into a, you know, shelter. But of course, there's other details that go along with that option. But, you know, we're looking at different ways to kind of help solve that problem and also make sure that people are not going to get harassed because of this new law. So we're working as hard as we can to make things better. Yes.
I just wanted to bring to the meeting attention for Largo. I'm not sure if this is appropriate right now, but the Pinellas Press, they do Pinellas Press, and I don't know if anybody's aware, but the city of Largo is building a new city hall, and I grabbed these. They're gonna put the face of the city hall up to the voters this fall of whether they should sell it or not. And so, like, if anybody would be interested in going to those city council meetings, because again, we need to show up to those city council meetings and show our faces and say, this is not right. You know, like there's places, and Largo has no shelters, no affordable housing or anything.
When you say the city council meeting, who's at the council meeting?
As far as Largo goes, I think it's a commission, not necessarily a city council, but they have a mayor. Their next meeting is August 6th.
August 6th.
Yeah.
And so that's what you said, some of us need to come and voice our opinions about how we're being treated or not knowing about what's available for us as homeless people or, almost homeless, or been homeless or whatever.
Or just start bringing this up because there's nothing in Largo. Like there's,
As far as building
and then
shelter.
there's also this one, this one is regulating kindness. Largo battles for help for homeless. So, we St. Pete, Bel Air, like wherever, like it's all, like this is for all of Pinellas County. So we need to start showing our faces and speaking.
Where is it gonna be?
It's on Highland.
We can provide the information to you.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the address is.
I guess the point that, Jennifer wants to make is make sure that if there's events like this, that we're there to advocate, to make sure that, we voice our opinions about this anti-camping bill, housing first, making sure that housing is always the main focus, and just making sure that we're advocating for that.
Shelter.
And the lack of shelter.
Resources.
Yes.
Jim? Thank you, Daisy. Simple question. Sorry for my ignorance, everyone, but can you explain the anti-camping that's going through this bill that's passing? So if somebody is a friend without an address and they're on the street, are they allowed on the curb? Are they allowed on the street? Are they allowed on the grass? Where's the fine line that is drawn where law enforcement has to approach an individual?
Right. So the anti-camping bill for Florida is effective October 1st of this year. Regardless of the Grants Pass versus Johnson bill or Supreme Court case, Florida was already going to put this bill in place as of October 1st. We can give you some more information, but what the bill states is that your unhoused neighbors are not able to stay in any public space. So whether that's the curb, whether that's a park, any public space, you're not allowed to stay there overnight. So overnight can mean a lot of different things, right? Is it at 8 o'clock? Is it at 9 o'clock? Is it at night, or, when the sun sets, what is that? And usually every city within our county has different rules as to what their overnight stay looks like. The idea is that if you have private property, like say a church, and they have their parking lot open for you to put your tent there or park your car there, the police are not able to come and tell you to move because that is private property. Now, if you're across the street and there's a park and it's public property, you will be told to move. So you wouldn't be able to stay there overnight. From what I know, when I've been talking to the sheriff's department, they're stating that the last resort is to fine or to put our unhoused neighbors into jails. They do not want to do that. So if they do find clients sleeping on the street, they will have to tell them to move or to find a shelter to go to. So, you're welcome. Any questions like that?
And what is that law law that's going on now? Right now, they can't touch you right now until they make a decision in the Supreme Court, the court, or the county about you have to go to jail if you're on the bench, right?
So the ruling of the Supreme Court already passed. So
Okay.
they said that any city has a discretion to fine or arrest anybody who's sleeping overnight in a public space. As far as Pinellas County goes, there are different cities that have rulings already that exist that you're not allowed to sleep overnight in public spaces. However, I don't know if a lot of the cities are actually enforcing it as much as the law tells them to. But as of October 1st, in Florida state, there will be a mandate that the cities and counties will have to report that or provide proper shelter for somebody who is homeless outside to be able to go to safely.
Yeah, because I heard what you just said. You said it's up to the county or the city to make the decision if they go to jail. That was the ruling in the Supreme Court. Right. You just said
Yes.
it's the county or their decision. But if they don't hear the voices of the people, they're not gonna know what to do. Put us in jail for what? We're innocent people. We don't smoke drugs or do drugs. You know what I'm saying? We don't cause problems. Put us in jail for what?
And that's why we're trying to advocate for that and make sure that we work with our COC and our system to be able to ensure that that doesn't happen.
And Tampa's gonna be January the 1st.
So, January the 1st is when municipalities and cities can be sued by private citizens if they see unhoused neighbors in their property or sleeping outside.
So these are just people who have properties and they don't want people to mess them up because we have all these high prices in our rent. Rent, what, $1,500, $2,000 for one bedroom? I can't afford it. Now let's have 4 jobs. Let's have a husband that works $1 billion salary.
And that's why we want to advocate for, rent control and also making sure that there's more affordable housing for our unhoused neighbors.
Right now.
Yes.
Think about it, Cal and National State Park, they go camping over to State Park, I know with their tents, and that's public property, so they're not very congruent.
Right, yeah. And I believe, not sure about, camping in state parks. I think that there is a fee that people pay to stay there, so I think that's probably the difference. I think we did look into maybe looking at, camping grounds to see if anybody within the county can pay, but it is really expensive to do that. I think that we would want to put our funds into more affordable housing and also rapid housing programs.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes,
It's
that's a good question.
a question, yes.
Yes.
You know, a lot of these churches that here in these counties, what are they doing with their churches? Are these churches private property? Are these churches for the public? If you have a church for the love thy neighbor as thyself, right? Love the widows, what about the people who are on the street, the orphans and the people? What about the churches? Could they open up for, homeless?
So church representatives are also invited to our task force, and we do have some members of our faith-based communities and churches who will participate within our anti-camping task force that are also looking at other ways to help.
You had a question, sorry. Oh, no. I just have a press release that was on the flgov.com talking about how Governor DeSantis signs legislation to address homelessness and protect the public and quality of life for Floridians. The homelessness, they're Floridians as well. But it starts out saying, today Governor DeSantis signed House Bill 1365 to keep Florida streets safe. The legislation requires counties to ensure that homeless individuals receive the mental health and drug addiction services they need while residing in a designated location off public streets, prioritizing public safety. Floridians will not allow homeless encampments, or Florida will not allow homeless encampments to intrude on its citizens and undermine the quality of life like we see in states like New York and California, said the governor. The legislation I signed today upholds our commitment to law and order while also ensuring homeless individuals have the resources they need to get back on their feet. With a challenge as complex as chronic homelessness, it is all too easy to fall into the trap of comfortable inaction. That was from Representative Sam Garrison. In Florida, we will learn from the mistakes of the cities like San Francisco, Denver, Los Angeles, and more, which are paying the price for their unwillingness to act. The bill will not eliminate homelessness, but it is a start. And it states clearly that in Florida, our public spaces are worth fighting for. The status quo is not an option. In Florida, we choose to act. It is simply the right thing to do. Floridians have been working endlessly to address many of the issues associated with homelessness, said Senator Jonathan Martin, who is the one that brought the two bills up. Which I've actually called the governor's office, and I got that information, and I plan on calling his office some more. So y'all can call, like, that's what they're there for, like, they're there to listen to us. Many groups from government agencies to nonprofits have seen their employees and valuable resources spread thin while helping our homeless neighbors. The bill allows us to take a major step forward by providing a framework for these groups to more efficiently, safely, meaningfully, and effectively serve our neighbors. Further, it returns our parks, sidewalks, and public spaces to their intended uses for all to enjoy, which is a lot, because the homeless is not allowed to enjoy it. But under HB 1365, homeless individuals are prohibited from camping on city streets, sidewalks, and parks, and instead placed in temporary shelters monitored by law enforcement agencies. The state of Florida has the enforcement tools needed to ensure local governments comply. Homeless shelters will require occupants to not use drugs. These shelters will also include substance abuse and mental health treatments. HB also provides alternatives for when homeless shelters have reached max capacity. It directs the Department of Children and Families to authorize temporary campsites that do the following: maintain sanitation, including access to clean and operable restrooms and running water, provide access to the substance abuse and mental health treatment resources through coordination with the regional managing entities, and prohibit illegal substance use and alcohol use on the property and enforce this prohibition. So that's pretty much.
Right, but however, right now, we don't have any word on whether or not we're gonna get funding, how that's going to be managed. How are we going to move our neighbors out of a shelter or an encampment into housing, which is the ultimate goal, is housing. So this is why we have to advocate for those dollars, if there are dollars, to come down for housing and affordable housing. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Stacy, and thank you all for those great questions. We are a little bit behind in our agenda, so I'm gonna move through some of this stuff a little bit quickly, okay? But our next agenda item is the interview and handout updates. For folks who weren't in the last meeting, or maybe just forgot, because sometimes I can't really remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, we have been working on advocacy in this group. One of the things that we have been doing is working on interviews. And the idea of these interviews is that we have 2 to 5 minute interviews with folks experiencing homelessness to share via social media and with the media. The entire idea of these interviews is to help destigmatize homelessness so that folks are more likely to support homeless services, homeless programs, affordable housing programs, and not call the cops on their neighbors.
Amen.
That's my goal. That's a lofty goal, but that's my goal. So that's the idea of these interviews. And I have to tell you, folks have been asking me if we have something like this. This is something folks want to see. I went to a meeting the other day to talk about senior homelessness, and I was telling them stories. These are not my stories, and I did not have a video interview with me. And of course, I never use identifying information. So don't worry, I'm not out there like, oh, you should see Joe Smith, he's really struggling these days. Don't worry, I'm not doing that. But I'm sharing these stories with folks, and they're asking me if we have videos. Because as I'm talking to people, just like I'm sitting here talking to you, they are, can we please take phone calls outside? So sorry.
Gene, can you take it outside, please? Now.
So,
It's unprofessional, we're trying to like.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So, as I'm sitting there and I'm talking to folks and I am telling them these stories, people are actively crying. People in the audience are crying, and they are asking me if we have this on video, because they know how much more impactful the story would be if it wasn't coming from me and they were seeing who the story belonged to. And they want to share this video with their network, with their church, because their church has a $5,000 a year budget for stuff like this. And they want to convince their pastor that they should give it to us so we can help our neighbors on the street. The media has asked if they can talk to people. And yeah, we can set people up with people to talk to, but wouldn't it be great if I had a pool of videos to pull from? And I said, well, don't you worry, I've already done that. Who would you like to talk to? Do you want to talk to a family? Do you want to talk to a senior? Do you want to talk to somebody in St. Pete, somebody in Carbon Springs? Tell me what you need, I've got it all. I really would love to tell everybody I've got it all. So that's the idea behind these interviews. We worked for a few meetings on some interview questions. We came up with a couple of interview questions. I don't mean me, Amy, the group came up with a few interview questions. I took that and I went to work and I expanded a little bit and came up with what you see in your packet as page 2 and 3. Sorry, on our printer at our office, it never prints out the page numbers because the margins are funny. But page 2 and 3, you can see what I came up with for draft interview questions, okay? These are, again, 2 to 5 minute interviews. The interview itself might take 10 minutes, but we'll edit it down. Hopefully I can find a volunteer to do that for us. But we'll edit it down so that they're 2 to 5 minutes so that they are easily shared on social media and whatnot. So I am hoping, and it doesn't need to be today, but I am hoping that y'all can take a look through these interview questions and provide some feedback. If you want, do a mock interview between each other. You don't need to ask every single question. But if a couple members of this group could get together and could try a couple of these questions out on each other, workshop them, I would really appreciate that. That would make for better interviews. Because I like to think that I have all of the answers, but I absolutely do not. And what I've written here might be good, but it could be better probably. Yes, ma'am.
My question is,
Oh, can somebody pass her a microphone, please? Norm, will you hand that microphone down? Thank you very much.
yes, you personally wrote these questions.
Yes, ma'am. Some of them came from the group, but otherwise, yes, ma'am.
The reason why I asked you this was because these questions are, have you ever been homeless?
No, that's why I say I'm not the expert.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, because you know what? The best teacher is experience, and I have been here, what, 7 years of homelessness, not straight in a apartment, not in a house, not a hotel, out, storage, you can't live in there, out, the street, out. So the best experience is the teacher to tell you the truth. These are questions, I can tell you from these questions that I live. I'm serious, I was just asking you that because that's why a lot of people have problems. The one who have good jobs, who have offices, or who have generations of people who have money, they don't understand it because they've always been supportive and covered. If you have a husband from 18 to, when you get married at 18, you married till you 40, you don't know what it means to be homeless if you have somebody to help you with your bills. But if you're a single parent and don't have that support, you have to fight for child support. Your parents are going home by their business with other 8 kids. You are homeless because you don't have no support. You got to work 4 and 5 jobs. The jobs stop. You have to quit. The kid gets sick. You get sick. The bill goes. The car goes. You're homeless.
So yeah, it's really important that that this information is shared. And it's really important that folks workshop some of these questions to make sure that those stories are getting shared and to make sure that they're coming across and to make sure that they're asked in the right way. I might ask a question in a way that makes sense to me, but makes no sense to you or Daisy or the person watching the video. It just makes sense in my head. So it's really valuable if y'all can, please take some time to look through these, make edits, make suggestions, practice with each other, and email me and let me know what you come up with. And if the answer is, Victoria, these are terrible, but we came up with 10 new questions, that's totally fine. I will not be offended. I embrace that. Again, just do not tell my husband anything.
Your husband, see, I don't have one.
I like to be right, and I just don't ever want him to know I'm not.
See there.
So thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions about the interview questions, about why we're doing this, how we'll do it? Anybody curious about that?
Yeah, I do have one question. I just want, not a question, just a comment. I think a lot of things that happen in this society, people don't understand it as far as homelessness and judgment and food stamps, welfare. People get stereotyped with that stuff. When you say homelessness, and what's the other one? HIV, having AIDS, drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol people are not bad people. It's because their parents don't discuss stuff that happened in the families, and you want to get on the drug or alcohol because they're negative to them.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's very, very right. So if anybody sees something and you feel like we haven't accurately represented or we haven't asked questions that will really show a population or a diverse story or something like that, please feel free to ask questions. This is not the end all be all. Jennifer, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I just had another statement, like,
Oh.
but it kind of ties into what you said.
Is it short by chance?
It's short.
Okay.
It's shorter.
Can you please hand Jennifer the microphone? Thank you.
Because I'm very vocal sometimes on my Facebook. And, so like what I just read you guys, I posted that, those, screenshots on my Facebook. And basically said, shame on Florida's governor for passing this law without knowing why or how someone is or became homeless. All caps, this is cruel and unusual punishment. The homeless here in Florida are residents and need to be safe, protected, and have a quality of life too. What happened to our country and loving our neighbors as ourselves? Homelessness, mental illness, and addiction can happen to anyone. Instead, local, state, and federal governments are more interested in entertainment, tourism, corruption, and greed. A partial list of reasons people become homeless, addicted to drugs and alcohol, or suffer from mental illness. And I have 5. Number 1 is raised and abused in childhood toxic environments, from sexually to psychologically. Number 2, chronic pain without proper medical care and medication. Number 3, loss of a loved one, children, parents, family, spouse, friends. Number 4, loss of a job, income. And number 5, can't afford housing, healthcare, food, and basic necessities to live. Please add any more reasons I've missed. God bless us and America. God bless America.
As the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Could I add, I'm sorry, could I add one more?
Yes, ma'am.
How about being discriminated against and judged? That's why you get in those situations.
I think that's a very, very good one.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for that. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the additions, and I appreciate everybody really considering these questions, because I can't tell you how far these videos will go. I watched a video with a story. It was 3 kids here local in Pinellas County. They are ALICE children. ALICE stands for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. I can't believe I remember that. And these kids, they're talking about going to school and how they're going to school, but they're going to school in dirty clothes and stuff like that. And I was watching an entire room of people around me cry, because these are not stories that they are super familiar with, and it really, really impacted and fired these folks up. And I would love it if we could do the same. So thank you very much for being so passionate. Thank you for very seriously considering this, for interviewing each other, and for providing feedback on this. I really, really sincerely appreciate it, because I do think that this is going to make a difference. Now, we have also been working on a handout in this group. And Kat, did you have anything you wanted to say about the handout, or did you want me to just talk about it?
I've got nothing to say about the handout.
Okay, so one of the things we've also been working on is a handout to go along with the interviews. I think that the plan right now is probably to put a pin in that until we get a little bit more organized in some of our talking points and in the interviews. And then let's come back around to that so that we can make sure we're focused and that whatever we put out there is impactful. If we're putting time into something and we're paying to print it, we want to make sure it's good. So let's go ahead and work on that then, okay? So before we move forward, because I do next want to talk about talking points, which will really help with that flyer or handout once we get it done, and will help in the COC task force meetings. It will also help if you go to the City of Largo meeting, okay? It will help if you are one of those people who was randomly approached by the media about to talk about homelessness. Let's talk about these talking points, these advocacy points, so that we can all start really making a difference, and so that Daisy and I can stand up and talk to people and represent you in the way that you should be represented, in the way that you want to be represented, all right? So, we did have a couple of weeks ago, and for anybody who wasn't present at the event, the training is available, and we can share that with you. The recording is available on YouTube. But we did have an advocacy training a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago. June 28th, there you go, only a month or so ago. So we had an advocacy training where we talked about how to advocate and how to talk to the people in charge, how to make our stories heard. And really what I took away from that is that we really want to focus on storytelling here in this group. We want to focus on getting our stories, and again, I say ours and we all the time. I never really mean me, but we want to focus on getting our stories out there and our stories heard, because that is how we make a difference. Daisy, Sherry, and I, we are working on the data. We are working on making sure that people have the data that they need, so that the folks, because some folks should win with data. Some folks are always intellectual. So we're working on making sure that they have what they need to come over to our side. We need your help working on the emotional stuff. And really, that is done by storytelling, so that we can bring folks through that way, okay? So, with that in mind, some advocacy talking points might include things that you want people to know about homelessness, okay? Not just homelessness can happen to anybody, but that is an example of an advocacy talking point. Homelessness can happen to anybody. Let's expand upon that a little bit. What does that mean? What does homelessness can happen to anybody mean? How do we turn that into a story? How do we take that back and make that a more impactful statement? Okay, advocacy points might include, let's see, what can you come up with here off the top of your head?
I would, like what I was mentioning about housing first.
Housing first,
How does that work? And not just say, you know, more affordable housing, okay, more affordable housing, but how and for whom? And how do we get access to it? You know, those type of advocacy points.
Yep.
Rent caps.
Yes,
Rent
rent
caps.
caps. Yep,
I brought that up at city council meeting.
right. Yep.
In Clearwater.
Better services, whether that's mental health or whatever service that the person may need, right?
They can't control property.
Could you repeat that? I'm saying, you said red caps, is that what you said?
Yes, so limiting the amount of rent increases. So specific landlords and property managers are not able to move above a certain amount of rent or dollar amount per month. So, yes.
Per year.
Or per
Per
year.
lease.
Per lease.
I mean, put a cap on it. If you're gonna do it for real. Yeah.
Because that's what happened to me when I was raising my daughter, my son in these apartments. They're like 30% of your income, but my income was only Social Security, but every so often they would raise the rent $25. So
one
that's
person at a
what,
time. Sorry,
that's okay. So that's what and you know how much my rent was in that apartment? It was a 2-bedroom, then you had to pay for the washer, then they would come in, the maintenance would come in, then you have to pay for stuff, like if the refrigerator leaked, then you have to pay for it, they have to fill out a form, you have to pay a little fee. I was paying, first I moved in $575 for that apartment, then it went up to $800. But then I only stayed there 4 years. That's a lot of money, isn't it? And I'm a single parent with a child, with a car, with school, with daycare, childcare, and what do you call it? Cable, no cable, internet, no internet, going to school, not going to school. That's a lot. And I had 2 or 3 jobs. So, and then you could be homeless like that anytime, anywhere, if you don't have no backup, like a husband, or that finances in the bank, or a really good career. So maybe education is the #1 key.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So we are a little bit behind on our agenda right now. If you'll notice, it is 6:26-ish right now. So we're an agenda item behind. So as we go through this, and I very much do want to hear more about you and your stories and your lives. But as we go through this particular agenda item, just right now, just today, because I do want to hear it, and I want to hear it in the interviews too, if you're open to it. But just for right now, just for today, let's focus on quick talking points if we can, okay? So what I heard you say there is income, the increasing cost of rent, and the importance of education. Absolutely. And those are wonderful. Those are wonderful. Is there anything that anybody would like to expand upon for those or would like to add? Could you give this to Miss Mary, please? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not a felon. I was looking up a pastor in Largo last night, and it was a Kimberly CoC, K-U-H-N law. Right now, she's having a Zoom meeting to try to help people to get their records expunged. So Kimberly CoC, K-U-H-N law, criminal
I've been
defense.
trying to do it for the longest.
So I think that's an, like I said, I'm not a felon, I'm still a nurse.
I'm sorry.
I've been in this community, know quite a few people. I was at Pinellas CoC last year and Safe Harbor last year. So a lot of people do have criminal records, so maybe this Kimberly CoC, you could contact her and she could work with you.
Excellent. Excellent. So impact of criminal records. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a really big one. What else?
I'm sorry, I have one question about what you just said. You mean clean up your criminal record, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a pastor in Largo, him and his wife have records, but they're pastors, and it was on his Facebook site. Kimberly Coon.
Because I have something.
She's doing it Zoom.
Oh, can we save that one for after the meeting or for offline? So sorry, but can we do it? Sorry. Sorry.
Because I have a criminal
I'm
record.
just gonna say this because everybody's got their own opinions.
Yes.
When God is taken out of the picture,
Uh-huh.
everything goes all to pot. Money, greed, everything gets, we know all about it. I do know all about it. Jim knows all about it. I believe I've not met Pastor Bill, but you know all about it. Ron knows about it. Mary, Jennifer knows about it. Gary knows about it. Kathy knows about it. Mike knows about it. That's pretty much the people I do know here. And I'm telling you what, if we don't start putting God first, God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and everybody wants to say they don't believe, but let me tell you, that's what's wrong with everything. Money, power, and greed. That's it. Read the commandments. The Old Testament testifies to the New Testament. No offense about it.
So bring faith-based partners to the table.
Absolutely.
All right, I like that. I got that one down. Could you hand that over to Gary, please?
I agree, ma'am.
Thank you. Oh, Gary, there was one next to you. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Are you the lady?
Originally, I was gonna add that a lot of the general public don't seem to realize that with today's low income, with the prices of housing, most people are 3 or 4 paychecks away from being on the path of homelessness themselves. Everybody's got themselves in this little comfort zone. Oh, it couldn't happen to me. Guess what? You do without 3 paychecks. Guess what? Now you're homeless. They don't seem to realize that. You know, everyone's on the brink of it, and they're just barely skipping out of it. Well, that's not my problem. It's not my concern. It's not my, yeah, it is yours. Because right now, I mean, most people don't even think about these bed and breakfasts in town, right? That are renting out to people coming down for bed and breakfast. Guess what? That's reducing the amount of available homes for rent out here. It's driving the prices of rent up even further. But most people don't seem to get that 3 or 4 paychecks out of your pocket. Now what? Guess what? Now you're homeless. You know, of course, now they're gonna worry about it then. But that's what I wanted to add. I didn't have a chance to, the conversation got away from me, but
Okay,
that's
that's
all.
good.
I'll pass it to
Excellent.
Mike over.
Thank you very much. All right, sorry. I saw, I was looking down. I wasn't sure you went up first.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's okay. I heard you. I got it down.
Yeah, that's true, even where we live. Yeah. It's like. Hear me?
I think it might be off. Is the thing switched down?
No.
There you go.
Grapes of wrath. Like last week I saw a car down here from Mississippi. They're coming down here from out of state, and they think this is the land of milk and honey, and they're in for a rude awakening.
Do we have any other advocacy points that we might like to make right now before we move into our shelter survey?
Can I agree with her? If you don't have any faith and any hope and any belief in anything, that's what kept me going as a single mama. I went to some churches, and because the people were so, were sweet, you know, they're not always right and correct, but they were sweet. I went to the churches, and that's what kept me going. Where's your cross? You got your cross, I believe in mine, and so that's what I have to say. We don't have no belief or faith in something that came. We don't have nothing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, y'all. I think that that is something that we can build upon and we can probably talk to our leadership a little bit more about so that we can work on really expanding upon and making something out of these points and out of some of the points that we've talked about in other meetings as well. So that's wonderful. That's very helpful to me. So thank you. All right. Next on the list. Can you say it till after the end? Thank you. All right. Next on the list. We have the shelter survey. Does anybody have any shelter surveys that you filled out?
Another one in.
You got another one?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so during our last last meeting, thank you. During our last meeting, everybody who was there received some of these shelter surveys. So the COC Anti-Camping Task Force, I don't really like calling it that because it sounds like we're against camping. We're not. We're trying to make sure that folks are taken care of. But the COC's Anti-Camping Task Force has really wanted to know what's preventing folks from entering shelter. Now, we have some ideas. We've talked a lot about some shelters here. We don't need to go into the whole rigmarole right here today. But they really want to know quite specifically, what is preventing people from entering shelter?
Dangerous, it's dangerous for certain people.
So let's talk about that in just,
People.
let's talk about that in just a second. Please keep that in mind. Don't lose the thought, okay? So, this information, okay, we are trying to make sure that folks, that providers and funders know how to adequately care for the community. This new law, it's coming October 1st, all across Florida. October 1st is the day. January 1, our neighbors might be able to sue, or actually, January 1, our neighbors, businesses and residents are able to sue local governments for non-compliance. That means January 1, somebody is sleeping on the street. Our local municipalities might be getting sued for it. So it's really, really, really important that we have a plan to address this and figuring out how to provide adequate shelter to folks is one of the key points. Long-term housing, permanent housing, that is the name of the game and that is the goal. Emergency shelter, interim housing, that is part of how we get there. It is not the end of the road, and we do not want it to be the end of the road. I want to be perfectly clear on that. We don't think shelter is the end of it. Housing is the end of it, and even at that, we still have services and stuff for folks who need it. So shelter surveys were handed out so that we can help identify what is keeping folks out of shelter. Does anybody else have a survey that was completed? All right, anybody who did not complete one of those surveys, please feel free to complete the one attached in your agenda and hand it in at the end of the meeting. We will be happy to take that. This survey is also available online. So though I didn't bring any more printed copies today, it is available online, and I encourage you to keep filling this out through August 6th, because we have our next COC task force meeting on August 7th, okay? So please encourage people to visit the website down here at the bottom. That is bit.ly/shelter-survey on the bottom of the page there, and encourage people to fill this out, because we need to know what is keeping folks out of shelter. Now, let me see where I am on time. All right, we do have a few minutes. So, y'all want to talk about shelter?
Yes.
All right, I thought so.
Harvard, I got over 440 some signatures from 2001.
Wait, with the microphone.
Is that a shelter or is that something different? Oh, I thought there were surveys.
No, this is a petition that I
Okay.
made up.
All right,
Sorry.
so let's talk about shelter a little bit. Now, before we start this conversation, okay, we do have next on the agenda, we want to talk about anti-camping law education at 6:40. So we're gonna have this conversation, let's say for about 5 minutes, okay? With that in mind, let's try and respect everybody's time and not go too deep down the rabbit hole here, okay? But please do fill the survey out and say whatever you need, take however many words you want and fill this survey out, okay? So who wants to go first?
About
Shelter.
shelter.
Shelter. You want to go first? You need the microphone.
Angela.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
There's one right there next to
Thank you.
So I'll try to be as quick as I can. Speaking of August 6th, will be 3 years that I've been in Florida. I am a transplant from North Carolina. And I got here August 6th and I went to Safe Harbor 211. That's the first place they sent me. And they tried accusing me of smuggling in drugs and alcohol while withholding my driver's license. And I asked them for it twice. And so, you know, I started a petition. There needs to be empathy training. Just straight, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated. Because like, I was asking, I didn't know if this is like what you were talking about, but like, this was my experience with Safe Harbor, and this is why people don't go to Safe Harbor. And they need to be cleaned up. They need to be, retaught how to treat people. Because everybody's in a different mental state. And they were gonna try to like, what they do is they'll mess with people's mental, I've heard the stories, have 440 some signatures. They mess with people's head so they can make them, motherfucker, I told you y'all had my life, sorry. My bad. And remember, I told y'all, because that's what they did after my second time of going to my car, because I knew that I had my driver's license. And I knew I gave it to them, and I'd asked them for it 2 different times. They don't even give you eye contact. And I got, it's like it's a jail diversion shelter. So what they do is they will mess with who they can mess with and make them snap, so they can trespass them from Safe Harbor, and the only place they have to go is next door.
So what I'm hearing is definitely treatment at Safe Harbor, increased empathy training. Y'all will be happy to know, actually, we do have a trauma-informed training series starting July 31st for COC providers. So we are working on that 5-part series. Everybody's gonna go through a lot of training over the next few months. But so what I'm hearing is treatment at Safe Harbor, empathy training, and keeping in mind that everybody is in a different mental state.
Right.
Awesome, awesome.
Right. And also to the workers that work there, the police officers or sheriffs or whatever they are, they need to read rule number 5, which talks about everybody who works there and the people that come there for shelter respect one another. That's on the little red sign. So rule number 5.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then I'm sorry, you had started something and I asked you to hold on to it. So I think you're next.
It's dangerous. I was trying.
With the microphone.
Hello?
Thank you.
Ma'am, Martivia. I haven't been around Pinellas Park for about 2 years. I'm back. I have storage unit in Park Boulevard with the truck hit me in 2021. So that's why I have a walk. I went to CMP because I was checking with my brother and my daughter. And he dropped me off at CMP, sent me to the ball. It's not like before, like years before. I went there, there's people doing drugs. There's people drinking alcohol. I couldn't sleep because I'm a light sleeper. They had music till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I actually didn't go to sleep till almost 4 o'clock in the morning. I suffer from insomnia. And you have to leave by 10 in the morning. You can't shower from 1 through 4 in the afternoon. And then you have to be back before 5:30 to sign same number spot you had before. And then there's no curfew. I called my brother before he started back trucking. Roberto, pick me up. I'm going back to the street. That's it. I'm done. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay. I thank you for sharing. So what I'm hearing is, and please, by the way, correct me all if I'm wrong about this. What I'm hearing is drugs and alcohol in shelter. Sometimes it is too loud to sleep. The hours, restrictions, curfews, and the availability of some supportive services like hygiene services.
And
Oh, sorry. There's a hand up here. Thank you for saying that.
I don't need a mic.
Oh, all right. Be very, very loud.
I don't need a mic.
There you go.
Pinellas County is very limited on shelters as it is. But no one who's been homeless for any amount of time, which is most of us here, I'm pretty sure most of us here have been homeless over 6 months.
Yeah. Right here.
You cannot change or fix our life in 30 to 90 days.
Right.
And those are the shelter programs. You get 30 to 90 days. It can't be done. They know that going in.
Writing that down as an advocacy point. I like that. That's really good. I'm writing it verbatim. All right. I love that. Thank you.
I just have one thing to add for the advocacy. The very first meeting, July 13th of 2023,
Mhm.
where we started this, it was also brought up, that there would be health and safety inspections of Safe Harbor.
Never
They have bed bugs, they have
All
like,
the shelters have got bed bugs, all of them.
Yeah.
They all do. They all do that.
Yeah, I did bring that to the board, and it was, they put a pin in it. I am hoping that what we will ultimately get to do is some spot checks, or have a lot of our board members, our leadership go, and check out a lot of the locations simultaneously, because I do want you to know, it was Carly with me back then. We heard and we did work on that. We wrote up a plan, we presented it to the board, and it was just a little pin. We'll come back to this. And I think probably this is the right time to bring it back and do the multi-shelter place. So it's not just Safe Harbor. Let's go and take a look at a lot of the different places in the
Is that
area.
what y'all doing like the, what is it?
Yes, that's the idea.
Okay.
The idea there
I
would be
remember
for my
Ross.
plan on it.
Okay.
So is it just two safety harbors, since that's it all over this county, that's it, those two?
There are, the shelters in Pinellas County include Safe Harbor, which is technically a jail diversion program. There is Pinellas Hope, there is St. Vincent de Paul, there's HEP, in Clearwater. There are, locations for families as well. For instance, Alpha House, Salvation Army, in St. Pete offers shelter. There are quite a few shelter locations across Pinellas County. Charmaine?
There are additional places like the Mustard Seed at 2500 Central
Yep.
Avenue. That is considered a halfway house.
Yes.
You go there, you have to have a job, you have to pay rent here, you have to go to AA meetings, whatever meetings that your problem, if you have alcohol, drug addiction.
Yep.
You have to go to that, your doctor's will leave, you have to meet at a certain time.
So they are not considered emergency shelter.
Right, not anymore. That's what the problem is. There used to be a lot more options than what there is now. Today, they just let it all dissolve. And there's more than just the Mustard Seed. I do not know most of them. There are quite a few in downtown St. Pete. I do not know, I believe there's one up in Clearwater by United Methodist Church. There's something up there, right? And that's about all I do.
There's a St. Pete Women's Free Clinic.
Yes,
Yep.
there is a free clinic for all the women that need any type of health care. You can go on, it's on Sanderland Center Free Clinic, that's in 22nd Avenue South, and there's one in downtown St. Pete.
So thank you very much for sharing that with folks. If anybody does need a list of shelter, we are happy to provide one. Gary, you had a point you wanted to make. Would you hand him the microphone?
Yes.
Oh, and then you
Common
afterwards, sir.
misconception, I wanted that. Common misconception though with Safe Harbor is that, and I've been told this by the guards, face to face. Safe Harbor is more of a jail deterrent, more of a halfway house, operated like a jail,
Right.
functions like a jail, the rules are set up like a jail, the guards treat you like a jail. It is not a homeless shelter.
It is a jail
My house
diversion
is
program.
supposed to be, but it does not function as such.
It is a jail diversion program. It is not an emergency
I've
shelter. It is a jail
personally
diversion
been there, I can tell you from firsthand experience.
Oh.
It does not.
You are right. It is different than other shelters. Would you please mind handing the microphone to this gentleman down here? Thank you all for being so helpful with this.
Thank you. I'm Pastor Bill, and as you know, our churches go out and work on the streets and in the parks and stuff. But I have one recommendation for checking on the homeless shelters. I did this, or I wouldn't recommend it. Instead of sending the Leadership Alliance folks to check it, I recommend they spend a night there in both shelters. And I've done that, a week actually. And I'll tell you how surprised I was. We ministered for years, and I thought, I need to stay. So I went to Pinellas CoC, which is tents. Here's how stupid I was. Even though I could talk about it, I'd never done it. I took a couple of books to read at night. There was no electricity in my tent. You know, so I really recommend, and I'll go with them. Say like, I'll stay with them or something like that. But actually staying in the place is pretty educational, guys. It is hard. It is dirty. It is sweaty. It is all those things. So that's a thought.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
And one other encouraging thing, I hope, I hate to be the bearer of good news, but you know.
We love them.
Is that, my church is a part of an association of 60 churches, and I've just written a proposal with Jimmy instead of waiting for the government, instead of waiting for something, we're gonna try and pool money from these churches and rent as many houses as we can. But guys, I'll tell you, the first initiative we have is homeless widows. Because the Bible said that, is take care of the widows and orphans in their distress. So just so you know, we're hoping to get that started, and that would help a lot. Thank you. Hope so.
Stick to that. That's excellent. Thank you very much. And let's talk after this meeting about that a little bit more. And also, I think it would be wonderful if you would be open to doing one of the video interviews. I think that it would actually be impactful if folks could hear folks who haven't experienced homelessness but have slept in the shelter, because the perspective is different, you know? And so I think that would be very valuable if you were open to working with us on that. I'd appreciate that.
You know, I'm wondering, I just got an idea, and you talk about these shelters and what have you. Are they just places where the people go and basically nobody talks to them, nobody starts a rehab program, nobody, you know, about arranging a job, let's say, or whatever their problem is, and a specific time, whether that they can stay there, and then some program has to be worked out individually on each basis for that person to move on from there on their program to get housing.
So we do.
And I think that's where the street outreach teams should go, because that's where the people are.
Yeah, so we do try and offer, most shelters do try and offer supportive services, but what I'm hearing is you think that there should be an increase in available supportive services?
It's not just basic needs services, it's a program to move them forward to housing. Whatever there has to be, you know, arranged for each individual case. And then there's a limited time to stay in that shelter, that's it. And that has to be all done and arranged and fitted, right? And they move on to the next level, whether it's transitional or whatever it is, you know, from there.
Thank you, Nora.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
We can open high schools and schools for showers. I don't see why they can't do that, you know, because in high schools and junior high schools, they have showers. You know, because a lot of us, we don't take showers, you know, it's not Tampa. Tampa, you can take a shower Monday through Friday. Over here in Pinellas Park, you can't. It's bathrooms or rivers.
Why don't they tell homeless people about the Habitat for Humanity program? They don't, do you know about the Habitat for Humanity?
The Habitat for Humanity program is not really a first-time homeowner program. It's a program which requires commitment on the individual, you know. It's a work program where they either have to contribute hours, and they also have to have a certain amount of income
Well, it will help.
for that to work.
It will help.
Even though there's an interest-free loan, you know, when they qualify and get in, you don't have to pay interest, you get a loan for the housing.
Well, McDonald's and Burger King is two jobs right there to help you focus so you can put your money away. You know, if you're working like that, working at night or working during the day, and off on the weekends, go to the hotel until you can get a Habitat for Humanity house.
Yeah, well, that's why I say, you know, for people like who work and make an income, whether it's McDonald's or whatever, that should be, some of the income should be put to a fund for that individual and matched somehow, right? Forever with the government towards housing.
Yep. And
That's what needs to be done. That's the only positive way to move forward.
Thank you very much, Norm. I appreciate that. I appreciate that input. Jennifer?
I just have some information for like anybody that's like on disability or Medicare. With your Medicare, you qualify for a free membership to any gym, to the YMCA, and you can go and you can take showers there.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I gotta check every third of the month.
Yep. If
Really?
you're on disability, yes, ma'am, you can go to
Every
the
third of the month, I
YMCA You can go to, it's called Silver Sneakers,
Planet
and
Fitness.
it's a great thing. Just don't let them talk you into a personal training.
Okay. You know what, if the first one's free, go ahead and do it, just don't buy the steak knife set.
And if you do, make sure you read the cancellation.
I wanna quit the gym. Excellent.
Can I make one comment? The biggest thing in America and society, even though we're on those countries overseas in the country, the biggest thing in the world is to have a place to stay that you own. And everything else like clothes and material things, you can always get because they burn up and you get it again. The biggest place is to have your own property.
And I want to
And
stop
that's-
paying storage.
And that's what I think anybody should do, real estate. There was a young lady that I met in a small rural town. I said, I want to do hair. She said, no, sister, real estate. I looked at her like real weird, but she was telling the truth. If you have your own property, you pay for your deeds, your titles, your insurance with your name on it, or the good king name on it. Nobody could take it away. You can put a dog on it, a tent on it, a box on it, a shack on it, a rug on it. Nobody can take it away from you. That's your property with your rug on it. So you get a box on it, a cement on it, a brick on it, or a tent on it.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
yours and nobody can take it away.
Yes, ma'am.
Hallelujah.
So that is wonderful. I really appreciate this, y'all. This, these advocacy talking points, this information about shelter, it is really, really helpful. I know it kind of just feels like it might just feel like we're sitting in a circle having a conversation and it's not gonna do anything or go anywhere. But I promise, this is very, very helpful. This is information that we are listening to, we are taking to heart, and we will take back to the board, to the task force, and we will make sure that it is heard. And I'm gonna put some responsibility on our co-chairs here who are part of this task force and part of this board, these board meetings as well, to make sure that these are heard, that these are said, and if Daisy and I fail to do so, please hold us accountable, okay? All right, thank you very much. This is wonderful. I am very excited. And I want you to know, I did add down on the list while we were talking, we must increase shelter options and storage is expensive. So thank you all very much for that. I did also have on the agenda future meeting planning. Really, we already have our dates and everything, but I want to know what is something that y'all are really fired up about that you really want to focus on? Do we really want to stay focused on what we are doing, keep working on these interviews and whatnot? Or do we want to shift gears to another format, another priority? Does anybody have any thoughts?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yep, so right now, and this question is really, I do very much care about everybody in the room, what y'all have to say, but this question is primarily for, guys, could you hold on just 1 second? Charmaine. Okay, hold on just 1 second, sorry.
Sure.
One person at a time, please. It is really, really hard for me to do meeting notes listening to this recording, and it is also really, really hard for some of the folks in the room to hear. So I really, really, really need everybody to please respect that one person at a time rule. I know that it does seem trivial and it's a pain in the tuchus, but it is a really important way of making sure everybody is heard and respected. So I will work on that. Y'all hold me accountable if I fail to do so. But do we have an idea of other things that we might want to work on? Is there something else that somebody is really passionate about in this room? Voting committee members that you want to see us work on? Mary, thank you.
You just, okay, like I said, I'm almost 70. I was at Pinellas CoC in Safe Harbor last year.
Mary, with the microphone.
Yeah.
So if you have an eviction against you, it's almost impossible to get a place. And then you have to put down $40, $52, $500 to apply for a place. So like this attorney that popped up on my phone, Kuhn, K-U-H-N. Perhaps you can have some attorneys and organizations that can help people to get their records straightened out, get the evictions expunged, because I have an illegal eviction in Tarpon Springs. 10 of us at my apartment complex, senior apartment complex. I have a black daughter. Some of the other people were black or half black. They targeted 10 people that were related to blacks in Tarpon Springs, and we all moved out. I have paperwork, I even signed up for Stetson Law School the other night. But people might have evictions, they might have, you know, some type of a record, I don't, but this eviction has kept me from getting into a decent place. Where I'm at now, my landlady is so crooked and illegal, it's unbelievable. I don't even like living there, but I just renewed my lease, I have to have a place to stay. Everything my landlady does, she's from another country, is illegal. So it's not that easy, once you become homeless, to get back on your feet. People have to not have evictions, or maybe they don't like you because you're voted for this person, or you're black, or you've got a black daughter, or whatever. So people need to be taken by their hand numerous times and assisted. Not go online and do this and go online and do that. Because a lot of people that are homeless are people that can't go online and do things.
Thank you very much. And oh, Daisy, could you hand that to Mary as well? This is, Mary, I want you to take that. I wrote down the number for the Pinellas Eviction Diversion Program. In case anybody's unfamiliar with this, the community law program runs a program called the Pinellas Eviction Diversion Program. And if you or somebody you know are facing eviction or feel as though you've been wrongly evicted or something like that, give them a call. So please make sure you reach out to them.
So I have to add to that, what if the eviction not happened like 5 years ago?
Oh, you have to call them. I'm not a lawyer.
Right, but, so I got an email from the Homeless Alliance stating that the places that they have available, you cannot have an eviction.
So we don't have places that.
Well, it was some kind of information on an email that came from when I had sent that email that last time.
Yeah.
I was gonna show you after the meeting.
Yeah, please do, please do. And there are definitely some landlords will not accept an application with an eviction. That is something that they have the right to do. There was a tenant's bill of rights in place in Pinellas and in the city of St. Petersburg. I don't entirely remember the Pinellas one very well because it wasn't very long lived. The St. Petersburg one did have some rules regarding evictions. It did have rules against income or against discriminating against sources of income and things like that. Unfortunately, Florida law has made tenants' bills of rights illegal. So we can no longer have them. We no longer have them here in Pinellas County for that reason. And so unfortunately, getting rid of the eviction qualification is something that will require a lot of advocacy from a lot of people. And we can work on that in this group if that is something that this group would like to undertake. I got to figure out exactly how we'll do it, but also encourage the folks that you know to talk to their city council members, talk to their state representatives, and really talk about the detrimental effects, the negative effects that evictions and criminal records can have on folks. Hold on, she's still going.
I have one more question. Is there any way of maybe having someone, set up to help people figure out what programs they're eligible for or grants? And I may be saying it incorrectly, but like, I don't know what kind of programs. I know some programs I'm eligible for, but some of it I don't understand.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And there's grants I know that are out there, but again,
yeah,
I don't understand it all.
So let's talk about that a little bit more after the meeting.
Okay.
Definitely want to help you make sure there are some things out there like that. And what I'm also hearing is that we need to make sure that more folks know how to access more resources. We have been trying to do the CoC info sessions. We've been trying to get more of the resource guides out there, but I'm hearing that we need to do more to make sure that folks know what resources are out there and how to access them. Now, since it is almost 7:05, y'all are welcome to continue the discussion for a few more minutes, but I do have to ask one of our co-chairs or Madam Secretary here to close us out in just a minute. However, Madam Secretary, do you have something you want to?
Can I have one comment? Just one little comment.
If it's gonna be really quick, otherwise I'm gonna have to ask you to
Real
make it
quick, I
after
just
the
say,
close.
you say anything to help people get free, any comments, they need to be free in their mind. Get free of the inner idiosyncrasies, their illnesses, their self-esteem issues, their ego issues. You need to get free in your mind with the word of God, right? The scripture. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
No, I just want to, anybody have surveys they want to turn in?
Thank you. Thank you for collecting those. Yes, if anybody completed any of the shelter surveys, please make sure that you hand those in. And on that note,
Okay.
Gary, would you mind handing the microphone to Gary? Or Gary, would you mind taking that? Thank you. Would you mind closing us out?
I figured since I opened, Mike might want to close it.
Mike, would you
No?
close us out? Oh, Mike, you might have to get up to get to the microphone though. The cord's long, but it's not that long.
All right, so have we covered everything we need? All right, meeting adjourned. Y'all have a nice day. Drive safe, be safe, okay?
Excellent. Meeting officially adjourned at 7:05. All right, please come and see us for bus passes. Committee members, please come and see me for gift cards. And if there's anything that y'all would like to talk about, any questions you have, please let us know.